Welcome to the New Grad Success Summit. My name is Dr. Emma Shapiro, and I'm here with Steve Carbary. He is going to help us with understanding everything about our continuing education units and how we can use CEUs to help grow our career, but also more importantly, how we can easily track our continuing education units to meet all the requirements that our licenses have. He works for MedBridge, and so he's really able to dive deep into this platform, which is so easy to use and really efficient to solve all of those things that I just talked about. So thank you so much, Steve, for being on here. I'm really excited to teach everyone the MedBridge platform and how they can really use it to grow their clinical skills, but also their career.
Indeed, it's a pleasure to be here, and welcome to all the new grads, and congratulations on the next stages in your careers.
I know, it's so exciting, and I'm so excited to be on the forefront helping these new grads grow their career and really get off to the right start. So speaking of that, so many new grads ask me questions about how to maintain their CEUs, and is there like a dashboard to understand how to do that? And so right here, we've pulled up MedBridge's CE tracker. So can you just talk about how MedBridge really makes it just simple and easy for new grads to keep track of their continuing education requirements?
Absolutely. So there's a number of different ways, and the first and most obvious is just by having very engaging content. So we've been working with PTs and putting PT education together for nearly 9 years now. And it's basically what MedBridge was founded on, was physical therapy education. So we have some of the world's best instructors. We have super high quality content. We have just over 1,100 courses for PTs to take, all available within one single subscription. And we have a phenomenally talented team of 3D designers and animators who do some really incredible work, kind of putting together or putting into pictures what the instructors are communicating in words. So it's a very comprehensive library of courses and content and educational content that makes it easier when everything's interesting. As everybody knows, it's easier to read an interesting book. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, in terms of tracking CEUs, we have, as you can see on the screen, we have a built-in CE tracker. And the idea is, bear in mind, please, that this is a dummy one that I've created just for this. This is not somebody who has desperately got another 38 hours of work to do before the end of the year. But what you can see there is that the CEU tracker, when you register with MedBridge, you can tell it what state you're practicing in and your license number. And bear in mind, for travelers, if you're going to be practicing in more than one state, it's so complicated trying to keep track of that this will do it all for you. So you can register multiple licenses in multiple states. And the tracker here, as you see on screen, will keep on top of that. So as you do a course, it will automatically say, well, it's accredited for California, therefore it's accredited for this state, and it's accredited for that state. And it will tell you then how much accredited courses you've already got, how many accredited units you've already got. And as you can see on screen, it will tell you if your license status needs some improvement, or if you're ahead of the game and you've got plenty of completed hours there. So the CE tracker really makes it simple. In terms of reporting it to your state licensing board, if you're lucky and you're in Florida, then we automatically update CE Broker, which is what the Florida licensing board will use. So it's all done for you. But for any other state, you can download from the certificates menu there, and from the license management there in the tracker, you can download a copy of all the courses you've taken. So if you need to prove that you've taken a certain number of hours of courses, you can download that, and it all has your license number embedded in it. So it's all attributable to you, and it's all demonstrably yours and your own work. So it really is very simple, just using this tracker, just by giving your license number and your registered state. And then every time you do a course, it's all automatically updated.
Yeah, I really like that, because I get a lot of questions, because sometimes people, especially travelers, don't know all the different requirements of all the different states. So I like how you're all ready. It saves me a lot of time and effort knowing how many contact hours do I actually need, and then it's already there and tracked. And also, this keeps the certificates or the classes from previous years as well, right? So if we do get audited,
Indeed.
maybe a couple years down the line, you can just go to MedBridge and boom, there they are if you haven't printed them out as hard copies.
That's correct, because obviously, as you know, APTA requires you to keep them for 5 years or be able to demonstrate for 5 years that you've actually done those the hours that you claim you have. So yes, it's all kept there. And even if you archive a license, if you move from one state to another and you archive the old license, you get a new license, it doesn't lose that data. So it's still there, it's still kept on record. And as with everything these days, everything's stored in the cloud, so it's all backed up. So it's secure rather than a paper copy that gets buried in a file that gets lost when you move house.
That sounds like someone I know. No, exactly. And that's exactly why I really wanted everyone on the summit to take a look at MedBridge, because it's just so easy and they simplify everything, especially as a new graduate. You are going to be overwhelmed with all the different forms you have to fill out, all the different requirements you have to maintain. So having something like this is just simplifies your life and it decreases that stress so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have another question for you, Steve. So a lot of states are going towards sort of more rigid requirements where they require live courses or live webinars. Can you talk a little bit about how MedBridge basically helps satisfy almost any state's requirements by having both online direct courses as well as the live courses?
Absolutely. And, it's not we don't want to deny that in-person conferences can be enjoyable. I don't know why the state physical therapy bodies haven't got on this yet, but the Florida version of ASHA, the Florida branch of the Speech and Hearing Association, recently held their conference on a cruise to the Bahamas. So you need to get on your committees and you need to make that happen. But in the meantime, we can satisfy all of your live requirements for CEUs by our live webinars. So we have a schedule of 2 to 3 live webinars a month, which you can actually see on our website. You don't have to be a subscriber to see the list at medbridgeeducation.com/webinars. And we host those webinars live, and then there's a live Q&A session afterwards. And then all you need to do is fill out a little quiz and a survey to solidify your understanding, and that's you completed the live CEU. So those are, for most states, those are by default, because of who we are, they're automatically accredited. So if you see a live webinar there, that's easy live hours from the comfort of your lounge, from the comfort of your dining room. You're not having to deal with an outbreak of theater cough. You've got room to spread out your notes if you want. Obviously, the cat's going to join in and sit on them, but it's fine. It means that you're in a comfortable environment, but you're still getting live hours. And you haven't had to travel to somewhere that might be freezing, or you haven't had to spend 4 days sitting on a cruise to the Bahamas just to get that live hours.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, the convenience of being at home for a live webinar is great. But I'm someone, for example, as a physical therapist, where I learn better actually in sort of a quiet, structured environment. And so for someone who can easily maybe get distracted, a quiet environment where it's just you and your laptop can maybe be a better learning experience than in person. Now, there's pros and cons to both. It's going to be probably hard to take maybe a course on taping over a live webinar, but there's a lot of other courses that you can take to satisfy those live requirements through something like MedBridge. And then the other unique point for new graduates that I want to bring up about why this is really novel, the live webinars, is that continuing education courses are so expensive if you go in person. And it makes sense. They have to rent a building. They have to supply you maybe food, breakfast, or lunch. They have to fly the speakers to the talk and do that class. But in a live webinar, you don't have all those other costs, so it's so much more affordable. A one-day live course that's in person could maybe run you $500 to $700, versus a MedBridge subscription is much more reasonable depending upon whatever profession you are. It's going to be at least a couple $100 cheaper, plus you, with one subscription, are going to satisfy all of your license requirements for that biannual period if you're a PT, or whatever period it is, depending upon your state.
Indeed. And don't forget, obviously, that all of those webinars, they're all included in a subscription, so you're not having to pay for those individually. But the other thing as well about a live conference or a live webinar is sometimes you just can't make it. You can't get there. People have lives, they have families, they have other commitments. So what we also do is we record all our live webinars, and then we will replay them. So the actual live presentation is replayed. We call it a Simu Live, but then we have a genuinely live Q&A with the original instructor afterwards. So because there's a live Q&A element, it's still classed as a live CEU. So even if you miss the original webinar, for whatever reason it might be, you can still get that live CEU just by joining in one of the Simu Lives later on.
Oh, that's really great to know. So okay, that was weird.
That's all part of our HIPAA compliance. So every MedBridge is HIPAA compliant, including signing you out if you're not using it.
There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. So that's actually really great to know, Steve. I didn't know that. So say I was at work while the live webinar I wanted to go to was on. I could then watch the replay, and I would just have to attend that live Q&A, and then I would still be able to satisfy the live requirements.
Absolutely.
That's great to know. That's really amazing, because we're all working, and oftentimes a lot of things are just at inconvenient times. You know, people are East Coast time, West Coast time, and so to have that flexibility of a replay is really beneficial. And even if you wanted to learn more, you could watch it live and then watch the replay to learn further. So the next thing I wanted to bring up is really how MedBridge can help grow your career and your clinical skills as a new graduate. So I know MedBridge has really two really unique adjuncts to its program. So I think I'll first maybe start with the certificates.
Sounds good. So we offer, this is one that I've taken, as you can see, as part of our own onboarding process here at MedBridge. So from our certificate programs for MedBridge, we recognize that an awful lot of new grads will leave knowing exactly where they want to work and what they want to do. They'll know the setting they want to be in, and they'll know the specialty they want to focus on. Some others won't. They'll come out of grad school and they'll just want to try everything. They want to go all the places, do all the things. And so the idea of the certificate programs really, from our point of view, it's really to help you discover your own niche and discover where your real interest lies and your passions lie. And it's, you might not find that straight away, but rather than spending a fortune on textbooks or live courses or even diving deep into something, committing yourself to a couple of years in a practice, working in a specialty, and then finding out, actually, this is not for me. The MedBridge certificate programs give you an opportunity to really deep dive into those specific topic areas. And as I say, it's all included in that subscription, so you're not having to pay any extra for it. But if you like it, at the end of it, you come out with a certificate that recognizes the work that you've done and recognizes the value of that work, and recognizes that it demonstrates to your workplace and to your future employers that A, you have ambition, and B, you have the self-discipline to work towards those goals. Because they're very comprehensive courses. We have, for instance, we have a bunch of different.
Yeah, I'll try to pull it up, for example, from on the PT side here and see if that pulls it up. Because definitely, this is just Steve's dashboard here, his demo account. You're not able to see all the different certificate programs.
There we go.
But it's really comprehensive and neat. And so there's some of the ones that really stood out for me is if you're in a school environment wanting to just learn more and have something that can sort of make you stand out in your resume, like as a new graduate, your clinical skills are important, but something like this, where you have this interventions for early childhood, that could make you stand out even more when you're going to apply for a school-based position. Or I know there was spinal cord injuries, fall prevention. The other one, the neurologic hand therapy. Hand therapy is a huge specialty in OT and PT in particular. And so having this certification, even though it's not, say, an OCS or an NCS, this is still when you go to apply for jobs, when you go to interview and you can talk about this certification, it's going to make you look like what Steve said, like you're driven, you're on top of it, you want to learn more, you're proactive, you're growing your clinical skills, but also you will just have more clinical skills in general to then be able to better treat and better help your patients.
I think that's the really important thing. And, when you're talking about starting a career, you're potentially in a clinic or in a working environment where your colleagues have been there much longer than you. So they've already got their own niches, their own specialties. They've already made their mark on their practice. So for you to really try and stand out and for you to find your own place and demonstrate your own unique set of skills, these are really useful for that. And I think you will demonstrate to your peers, not just through clinical excellence and through your clinical understanding, but your leadership will really take note. And I think from a career kickstart point of view, that's absolutely invaluable.
Definitely. And perhaps even you can use this, like in the other master classes in the summit, we talked about how to interview and negotiate for a higher salary. These certification programs could be something that you could use as sort of a tool to help negotiate for a higher starting salary, because you already have a little bit of extra knowledge. You already have a certification, and you can easily add this to, beside your name, in addition to your PT title or your OT title, adding these certifications. I would highly, highly suggest it.
I think so. And the certificates have value because MedBridge is, particularly in a setting like a skilled nursing facility or long-term care facilities, and certainly home health increasingly, MedBridge is very much the benchmark. It's a standard that everybody's heard of. So whether you're in a big setting that's got a director of education, or you're in a tiny practice that's got just two other clinicians, two other therapists, people have heard of MedBridge. They know what it means, they know what it stands for, and they recognize the quality of the education and the instruction, and therefore the value of the certificate that you've obtained. And it's not just about necessarily clinical knowledge. I think, talking about leadership, it's important to recognize that some new grads will come out instinctively knowing that they perhaps want to work in a non-clinical environment. They don't necessarily want to spend their entire career in the clinic, so they're already looking at non-clinical opportunities. So we have courses, we have a certificate in leadership in the 21st century workplace, because it's a changing workplace, and there are changing requirements and changing demands and awareness of that. And so being able to put yourself in the position where you're already have those skills, it puts you ahead of the competition. So it's great to have. And then you combine that potentially with the beaming beacon of motivational positivity in the non-clinical environment that is Meredith from the non-clinical PT. And you've really got, and I believe Meredith has her own presentation at the summit, but you have such an immense head start over those who just wait for a non-clinical role to come along and then try and make themselves compatible.
Definitely. And all of this is included in their standard package. And so all of this, you could, the first year out, already take all of these certification programs if you wanted to. It's unlimited, which is really nice. They not only have the certification programs, but if you're looking to get one of the specialties like the OCS, the NCS, they're all here, the GCS, SCS, and more. If you're looking for that, they have a prep program, which I think is so valuable, because outside of MedBridge, you could potentially pay $500 to $1,000 to get one of these preparation programs. But with MedBridge, that's also included. And I really love that they have an extremely high passing rate of 93%. So if you are a new graduate or recent graduate looking to take your OCS or NCS or GCS, any of these certification programs, they have the prep courses to help you with that. Now, I haven't taken any of these, Steve. Do you think you could maybe dive deep into a little bit about how these prep programs work?
Sure. So these are obviously these are an official way of adding extra letters to your name and making you stand out from your peers. These are official certifications that shows that you have a specialist knowledge in a very specialist area. So with the sports certified, the orthopedic certified, the geriatric certification, neurology certification, and pediatric certification, and we've recently added the CRRN for rehab nurses. We can cover a lot of the bases or all the specialist areas that are available, and these are really comprehensive courses. So the OCS prep course, for example, has, I think it's 45 courses over 20 weeks. It's there's a whole reading list of recommended courses, recommended material. There's about 20 case studies, over 500 test questions and simulated exam questions. And the way that these prep programs are run is that it allows you to assess your own strengths and weaknesses. So you don't have to sit through a part of a course on something that you know inside out. So if you've loved something from the start of your studies and you absolutely know it, you don't have to sit through the stuff you already know. So you can focus on the areas that you need to improve on, which is a major part of what MedBridge stands for, the clinician understanding their own areas for improvement. And so you can focus on what you need to improve on, the areas that you need to develop, and it allows you to work in a couple of different settings. So you can either work in a group if that works for you. We have closed Facebook groups which are run by the instructors who ran these courses, who do the courses that involve the prep programs and the subject matter experts. So you've got direct access to those people. So you can do that, and that means you've got other people to bounce things off if you've not really understood something or you're not sure of how to apply it. Then you can discuss those with other people in the groups, or you could just do it entirely splinter cell, whatever, if that suits you, on your own, and plugging away through the courses. It's really up to you. So the idea is to make it. The idea is, I guess, is that the best way to work is the way that works best for you. And the prep programs allow you to get yourself ready for the exam in a way that is going to be the best for you and give you the best preparation.
I like that. And the fact that like it's almost like really flexible, because we're so busy with our day-to-day lives, especially as a new graduate or recent graduate or soon to be graduate. There's so many things going on, and so it can be sometimes hard to take maybe an in-person program. And so something like this is once again similar to the live webinars, where at the end of the day, if you have time, you log in, you open up the GCS prep, and you do what you can. And then the next day.
Indeed. So, and there's a couple of other things there as well. I mean, bear in mind that all those cert prep programs are included in the standard membership. And there's, we mentioned the mobile app, so you can actually do that whilst you're traveling, obviously not whilst you're driving to work, but if you're on the bus or the train or whatever mode of transport you use, you can do those courses outside of those work hours when it's convenient for you. You don't have to be in front of your laptop. And the other aspect is that when you're sitting in a job interview and you're in front of an interviewer and you're saying, well, I've done this, I've done these MedBridge certifications, and that raises an eyebrow, and then you say, well, I've got the board certification specialty as well. From the interviewer's point of view, it's not just about what you've got, it's about how you got there. And so for them, knowing that you've been through the MedBridge cert program shows that you didn't just turn up one day and do an exam. It shows that you've followed a kind of a proper course of study, and that shows application, it shows that self-discipline, it shows that commitment to improving not just the profession, but your own professional development. So I think that's the prep programs are essentially, they're a few extra kudos points to having the letters after your name as well when you're sat in front of an interviewer.
Definitely. And not just that, but just to have all of this sort of combined and organized. I have a couple times taken a look at taking either like the GCS or the NCS, but every single time I go to the APTA's website and I look at all the GCS requirements and what I'm supposed to study, they really do not do a good job of guiding you as to what you need to study. It's really limited, really confusing, really overwhelming. And so to come here, have this, like I'm really, really tempted to take the GCS prep program now. And I feel a little bit more confident just having this program that has already provided such a great passing rate, and it's all there. Like as a new graduate, as a recent graduate, even as a seasoned professional, time is money, time is valuable, and you're going to be busy at the end of the day. And so having this, so you don't have to research and Google and buy 23 textbooks and search all over the places, it's so invaluable.
And I think it's worth pointing out as well that obviously things like this, you could do it 20 years into your career, but the sooner you do it, the sooner A, you can put it into practice, and B, the sooner it's going to start working for you as well.
Yes, actually, you're 100% right, Stephen. You're not even a therapist, but you're so right. Like right now, I could never pass the OCS because a lot of my ortho skills, I just don't use them. I work in a skilled nursing facility, and so I have different skills. And so if you are interested in doing one of these certification programs, do them now before life gets in the way, before all that knowledge that you worked really hard to learn and study for, before that sort of civils out and you're replacing it with other things like buying a home and other things like that. So definitely I agree with Steve, is if you're interested in ever getting a certification like the OCS, NCS, SCS, I would suggest you look into trying to take it sooner than later, because it will help advance your career, especially for physical therapists. They're actually looking in the future to have these programs actually be a requirement. And so I don't know when that's going to happen, how far along that's going to take to happen, but if you have it now, then basically you're guaranteed in the future to be set. And so that's just some extra knowledge for those on this summit. Now I know you have a lot of courses in general on other things like compliance. Is there anything, Steve, you also want to go over that you think would help therapists grow their career using MedBridge?
Indeed. I think when you talk about growing your career, for new grads coming into any industry, it's always a little bit intimidating when you're surrounded by people who've been doing the job for a long time, and they know the ins and outs, and they know the people, and especially if you go into a bigger facility where you might feel a little bit lost in there. So really the trick is to try and find a way to bring yourself to the attention of the leadership. And you can do that in a couple of ways. One, you could turn up 10 minutes late to every meeting on a Monday morning. Or two, you can basically make a visible contribution to your clinic's patient and financial outcomes. And you do that by closing the loop between your education and your continued education and the patient outcome. And what that really means is to gain the respect and admiration of your peers and your patients. You link those two things together, the education and the patient, continuously, so that you're continuously improving the patient outcome, and that means closing that loop so that you focus not just on the patient outcome itself, but it means you're focusing on the patient health. You're focusing on their satisfaction with their treatment and the clinic in general, which also impacts their adherence to your treatment program, which also impacts or helps to reduce readmissions. Those things are a big loop, and they come back to the clinician education, and that's really where MedBridge comes in. And the sooner you can get a grasp of that, of getting into the habit of feeding your patient outcomes back into your own continued education, which will improve the patient outcomes, but then you feed that back into your education, and that just becomes the kind of the loop that will close smaller and smaller, and those things matter to the people responsible for running your clinic. So if you can, if you can positively impact those, then you will stand out, and those managers will come to you, and they'll come bearing donuts, platitudes, and big Cheshire cat grins. So I think the more that you can work out the relationship between your continued education and the performance of you in the clinic and your patient outcomes, the better you will be. The better armed you'll be for your career as a whole, and you'll get off on the right foot. So you won't get yourself down the line and think, oh, I wish I'd done this 5 years ago. I wish I'd started to learn X, Y, and Z 5 years ago. Because the good thing about MedBridge courses is they're so practical, and they're all evidence-based courses. So you can do a course in the evening and immediately put those strategies into place the next day. when you're with your first patient. So just getting into the habit of that early on in your career, it's so valuable, because as everybody knows, if you get into bad habits, they're so hard to break, whether it's driving or whatever else it might be. So getting into the good habits of, or the useful habit of just linking and closing the loop between your patient outcome and your education, and using MedBridge as the glue to hold that together, and the way to link those things, it's such an ideal way to progress your career and make you stand out amongst your peers.
Yeah, I think your perspective on continuing education is spot on. You know, a lot of people take this as sort of like a chore. I'm just going to, take the first couple courses I can do, and then that's it. But if you want to use this to grow your clinical skills, which then will help your patients and inherently help grow your career, then you have to think of, like what Steve said, sort of closing the loop. How can you better serve your patients? And when you take a course that can help you do that, then your outcomes are going to be better. That patient is going to get better faster, which is going to look better for your clinic. And it's just going to be compounding and compounding. And then one idea I also had while Steve was talking too is if you go into the clinic and maybe there's something that you want to grow in the clinic, like maybe you want to grow a better athletes program, taking certification programs, taking CEUs that can build your skills. So then you can go to your current clinic or to your future clinic, or even to a clinic you eventually want to run yourself, using those courses to help you potentially build this new program or make the program even better, are just some other ways I'm thinking off the top of my head to help you just grow your career and help serve more people as well.
And there's another important aspect as well, I think, which is that increasingly in this day and age, we hear a lot about burnout, and we know that it's an issue. Obviously, the World Health Organization just added it to ICD-11, so it's getting a lot more recognition as a genuine problem. And as a clinician, it's your duty, obviously, to look after your patients. But if you're not healthy, then your patient outcomes are going to suffer. And none of us got into this industry to do anything but help people, right? We got into the business to help improve people's lives. So I think taking care of yourself by understanding, or not getting yourself into a position where you just hate what you're doing, is super important. And you can do that by exploring different options. And the sooner you do that, the better. And that's where things like the certification programs can come in, or even just exploring the fact that there's 1,100 plus courses across a whole different settings and specialties on the site. And I think we do have a certificate program there, one of the MedBridge certificates, which covers lifestyle medicine, which is essentially for clinicians that want to integrate health promotion and wellness into their own lives, but also their daily practice. And we hear time and time again about the dangers of burnout. And I think you've got genuinely awesome resources like Joy Energy Time. Again, Erica is here on the summit and presenting herself. And we're seeing sites like that spring up to help prevent burnout and to help people deal with it. And one of the biggest lessons is tackle it early before it becomes a problem. And prehab your own self-care by making sure that you're exploring the options available to you. You're looking at the different specialties rather than just making assumptions about what you have to do, and really just take the opportunity to find what puts the spark in your life.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I did an amazing webinar with Erica for this summit. And one of the things she talked about is just that there's a lack of growth that can cause burnout, this frustration where you feel like you're not able to grow in your career. So using something like MedBridge, taking different courses, experimenting with different strategies, or learning more about the foot or the hand, you can feel like you're actually evolving versus being stagnant. And that is a huge cause of burnout. And so that can actually help make you feel more empowered and help prevent burnout as well. So yeah, and there's so many resources on burnout as well in that talk. But I agree, Steve. Well, in general, I think there's just so many resources that MedBridge can provide. Do you have any last comments or anything else you would like to share on how to use continuing education courses to grow a healthcare professional's clinical skills and career?
I think we've covered all the bases, really. The only thing I would say is that I'm a little bit jealous because this is an incredibly exciting time for new grads. It's a long, long time since I was a new grad. And so I think just recognizing that the world is out there is your oyster, and it's all yours to explore, and MedBridge is absolutely your compass for doing that. And we might have a little giveaway. I don't know if you want to mention that, but
yes, go for it. Yes, we're going to have a giveaway. So Steve and MedBridge have been so generous in giving away one free subscription for MedBridge, and in addition, down below you'll find a 40% off discount link for MedBridge, and you can use that whether you're a speech therapist, a nurse, a PT, an OT. They even have athletic training resources. So if you're also an athletic trainer, you can click that link and really take advantage of these resources now while you have the time, energy, while you're still, driven to learn more and passionate about learning more, and while you're still developing your career and your clinical skills, because the more information you have, the better clinician you'll feel. And these courses can help make you feel more confident from day one entering the clinic.
Absolutely. And that confidence comes from just learning the strategies that are put across and then being able to implement them straight away, rather than having to think, okay, I'm going to have to wait a certain amount of time before I have the opportunity to put that in place. You can implement them straight away, and then you see them working, and that itself creates that increasing confidence in the product and in your own learning and in your own practice.
Definitely. And MedBridge is always evolving. So if you see a course that you really want to learn, reach out to Steve, reach out to the MedBridge team, and they will be happy to try to develop that. They may even be developing that already, and it's about to be published. They have hundreds, if not thousands of courses if you compile all the different professions together. And so it's just like what Steve said, the world is your oyster. Use these resources, and hopefully this session has enabled you to feel empowered that there are really economical ways for you to grow your clinical skills, for you to get other certifications, and to grow your career as well. And once again, don't forget to really capitalize on this and use that link below to get MedBridge at a really wonderful discount. Thank you so much, Steve, for being on the summit and for being so supportive of helping new grads grow.
My pleasure. MedBridge is very glad to be involved.
Thanks, everyone. And don't forget, we have tons of other talks in this summit on how to pay off your student loans, how to overcome burnout, non-clinical careers, how to create your resume and cover letter, how to interview and negotiate like a pro, and so many more. So check us out at www.newgradsummit.com, and we'll see you in all the other talks. Thank you.